Well, hello, good people of the internet. That was my impression of a priest singing in a Catholic church or a Catholic mass. I hope you appreciate that I go to extra effort in the year 2018 to bring you more interesting opening of podcasts. Possibly not going to be a continuing trend. Anyway, hello, good people of the internet. This is Tommy Kelly, and this is the Tommy. Said the name of my own podcast wrong. Or not wrong, but just not. I didn't get it out of my mouth. Anyway, this is the first podcast of 2018, and I hope you all had a wonderful holiday break. Now, in Ireland, of course, it's called Christmas, but I know some Americans, not just Americans, I suppose, but some people have an issue with calling it Christmas because of all the connotations to do with cheesy, crazy, and such. But we definitely call it Christmas here, whether you believe, don't believe, or whatever, and it has very little to do with cheesy, crazy. So, holidays for my people who don't like the Christmas thing. I hope it was great. And for people who call it Christmas, I hope it was, as great as people who don't call it Christmas. So anyway, in this episode, there's a few things I want to get through. And the best thing to do is just to, start that. Okay, so here we go. So yeah, the first thing I want to talk about is that I know before the break for Christmas, holidays, that thing that happened, I was kind of messing around with doing podcasts that had both audio and visual elements to it. Now, while I liked that idea and it was kind of fun, it kind of took away from what I was trying to achieve with the podcast, which is me sitting in a room talking into a microphone. And when you have to do it visually and stuff like that, you kind of have to go into somewhere where there's lights and it kind of becomes, there's something interesting looking rather than just, the stand. Well, I suppose the standard thing is to sit in front of a bookshelf and stuff like that. But I don't want to do that. And the thing is, what is the difference then between a podcast and just say doing a vlog and, putting the audio out as a podcast? So I'm going to try, at least for the next while, to continue the podcast as it used to be, which is just me talking and have no visual element to it or no kind of story element thing that I tried to do, like that one when I was in the warehouse, all that. Just do it as normal where I talk. And because, I'll tell you, that is a thing that I find helpful. And I will explain why I find that helpful and what the reasoning behind that is in a bit. That's going to be the main part of the podcast. But I suppose I just want to talk a bit about what's going on over on Patreon. So what's going on over on Patreon is that we have all started, all the Patreon members, well, most of us, the journey, which is our year-long meditation, shadow working, that started on the 1st of January. And that seems to be going very well. People are enjoying it. People are starting on different days that suit them and all that. So I'm trying to keep this as loose as possible, while still keeping it within the framework of some sort of, rather than just let hell let loose and do whatever you want, have some sort of framework to it and stuff like that. So that means I have been getting back into journaling. I've been getting back into meditation. I've been doing some journeying. And I have to say, the break has done me wonders, because before then, my meditation practice was mostly me sitting there worried about my posture, or me being annoyed about my posture. I'm not really enjoying meditation. I have a very poor relationship with meditation, I suppose. I've done a lot of it, but it's just something I kind of feel, you should do rather than I ever enjoyed it or whatever. But for the moment, the first week of being back meditating, having taken a break of about 3 months altogether, I'm enjoying it. And I seem to have right now a system that works for me in that I've headphones on, which I've never done before, and I'm listening to some kind of background noise, whether that be a stream, an ocean, maybe some sort of guided meditation, some sort of music. It also is helpful because my wife runs the preschool here at the house, that I can do my meditation during the day, and it makes no odds because kids can scream all they want, or Vanessa can scream all she wants. Vanessa doesn't scream with the kids. And it makes no odds to me from meditation because I have headphones in. So that is cool. And I've been using Insight Timer, which I'm finding very useful and has lots of good features. I was using Headspace, and I think Headspace is a wonderful, wonderful app when you're starting to learn to meditate. But when you kind of want to go off on your own thing, probably not so much. Well, there's elements there where you can, you set up 20-minute unguided meditation or half an hour, or whatever. But at that point, why are you paying for it when you can, kind of thing. So definitely recommend Headspace to people who are new to meditation. And check out Insight Timer as well. So as I know, it's on iOS and Android. So you should be covered there. So that's the journey. If you want to get in on the journey thing, it comes as part of, if you support my work on Patreon, for doing these podcasts, videos, my art, my photography, all of that kind of stuff, it comes as part of a level 2 and upwards reward. It's just a 12-month thing where we're going to use servitors to try and find out and get over basically our shadow stuff, or, that shitty stuff that we have inside us that we should probably, work on and deal with rather than, keeping with it. Now, so what the main kind of theme or the main idea I had for this podcast is I want to talk about why the podcast is something that I find personally helpful for sorting things out in my head. And why it is more beneficial to me than just, say, talking to someone physically in the room, something like that, or someone online through private messaging, or whatever way people interact with each other, on the phone, through 2 tin cans with a piece of thread. Any of those things where people talk to each other. And it comes from the thing that I have a very kind of poor relationship with talking to people about things, because I find when I talk to people that there's a number of things that people do, and I'm sure I do these as well. So I'm not pointing the finger saying I'm bloody brilliant at listening to people. I fall prey to these issues too as well. But I find it intolerable, if you want, when people do it to me, because I feel I'm super important and people shouldn't do that to me. And I would have a victim thing probably where I think people do it more to me than it happens to other people, but of course that can't be true. I assume this happens to everyone. So one of the main things that kind of stops me from finding any kind of benefit from talking to people about certain things is that the very first thing most people do is they try to solve it, or to try to come up with an answer, or try to get you to see it in a different way, or try to fix you. And I don't want that. When I talk to people, or when I say things out loud to people, when they're in the room and I talk at them, I'm not asking for them to solve it. I'm not asking for them really to have an opinion on it an awful lot of time, unless I ask, have you any ideas in this? What is your opinion? But what I just want is to say these things out loud to someone, and to them to nod and listen and interject, every now and again. But I'm not looking for it to be fixed. I'm not looking for advice. I'm not looking for, to be debated or whatever. It's literally most of what I want when I talk out loud to people is I want to be listened to. And that's very hard when you're actually having a conversation with someone, because they want to fix it, they want to help you. People in general are nice, and they don't want you to be in pain or sad or whatever, or happy, whatever it is. They do want you to be happy, whatever it is you're talking about. They want to try to help. There is a very natural inclination in most people to try and help. Now, another thing people do is they instantly start making it about them. Now, there's 2 kind of forms of this. One of them is where people will try and relate to you an example of something that's happened to them in their life that is similar to what you're going through, to get some empathy and, to kind of have a shared experience and stuff like that. That's fine as well. But again, just listen to me. You know what I mean? Just listen to me. Just listen to what I'm saying. I can talk about your life at some other time. I sound really bad, but this is how I feel, and this is what it is. The other one is people just make it about them, because that's what some people do. Just no matter what, will make it about them. And very quickly, I find that an awful lot of people in my life will talk about their life and their things only. In so much that I have a number of acquaintances who, while I would know very intricate details about their work, their family life, or those sort of things, would probably struggle to actually, if someone asks them, what does Tommy do, to actually answer that question. Because I find that unless you force things on people, and force would tell them, people genuinely aren't interested and want to talk about themselves. And I don't care if people, know what I do or whatever that. So I don't do that thing that other people where they just talk about themselves. So I just let people talk away. So again, well, that's fine, and that's social interaction, and there you go. That's who it is. It's not helpful to me. Well, it's helpful in social interaction, all that stuff, but it's not helpful to me when I'm trying to get something off my chest or trying to work something out in my head in the way that it is when I talk in a podcast. So you see, because when I'm doing this, it's basically what I want from when I talk to someone, in that so what, there is an audience, so someone is listening. There is going to be someone listening. So it's not just me talking in a room. There is a final outcome, like there is a release. It gets out there. It becomes a thing. There is some, eventually people can come back and talk, or we can discuss it later. But I'm getting the entirety of what I want to say out. No one is interrupting me. No one is telling me about their lives while I'm saying it. Like, of course, like, feel free to tell me about your lives once I've said all this. So there's this kind of, and this the word I can never pronounce it, cathartic release that comes from me talking into a microphone in a room, because it has all those things. No one's trying to fix it. I can speak what I'm talking about without someone interjecting and saying, oh, well, this once happened to me, or making it about them, or no one can argue with me, no one can tell me I'm wrong, and I can sort out my own thoughts and feelings in my head, because as you speak things out loud, a lot of the time, as we all know, we'll find how either ridiculous it sounds, that it doesn't, like, you can be thinking something in your head for weeks, and then you go, and you say it out loud, and then you just go, oh, well, that's obviously ridiculous, but it's not until you actually, like, it's the release of physically it coming out of your body. I think there is something actually in that. So why the podcast? Why do I, as I said, all this 90% of what I do is extremely selfish, and that, the podcast is for me to sort my head out about various issues. And as I said, for knowing that I'm not in any way special, along the way it may help someone else, which is the bonus. The actual thing is I want to sort myself out. But this leads to a question, though, of the podcast, and is, at what point is it my story to tell? This is a hard one, and I do not know the answer. And I may know the answer by speaking out loud, I may not. But if you have the answer, please don't feel scared now, because I said not for people to talk. Please send me, some opinions or a story from your life that relates in some way to what I'm saying. But please don't just make it all about you, because that's no fun for anyone other than you. And there's already one person making this podcast just about them, which is me. So, that job has, there's no vacancy for that job. Anyway, so the thing about it, my kind of rule, in a sense, for this was that I would talk openly and honestly about my experience and what I've gone through, or what I think, or those kind of things. But the boundary is kind of a bit grey in when is it my story to tell. And it's my kind of, well, if it happened to me, then it's my story to tell. But I think it's more nuanced than that. I think it's more complicated than that, in that just because it happened to you, or around you, or near you, or close to you, it mightn't necessarily be your story, and it might, and fine, you can tell, but in a public kind of forum, like a podcast kind of thing is. Like, if, say, friends of mine had an argument in front of me, is that my story to tell in a public forum, or any forum? It happened there. It could have, in some way affected me. It could have been like, oh, I was very anxious that day, and it made me really anxious, and I could talk about that. But is it my story to tell? Like, and say if it was worse than that, what if there was like some sort of, I don't know, like, say, abuse, or there was some sort of actual physical fight, or there was something that people would be genuinely embarrassed about or wouldn't want to tell, but it did affect me in some way. Like, say I was at some sort of social gathering, or I was in someone's house, and something happened that I can't, it's always the way you can't think of a good example, but say something, someone was really drunk, and did something, or someone wasn't even, something, I don't know, someone pooed their pants, or something that's particularly embarrassing or hurtful or something to someone else, but it has an effect on me in that it shocked me, it affected me in some way. Like, say someone got violent or something with me because the medication, the wrong medication or something. But now that has affected me. Is that my story to tell? Am I, like, can I talk about things that happen to me if they involve other people? And I mean, the answer is, of course, is I can do whatever I want. But I mean, consciously clear and in fairness and in the kind of like, is it fair? Like, is that a fair thing to do? I don't know the answer, but the thing that kind of rolls around in my head is it's like saying, what if, this podcast, as I've said over and over again, is about me trying to sort my head out and all that. But to what cost? Like, is it sort your head out and fuck everyone? Like, who cares what kind of thing you leave behind, or what kind of things you ruin, or what kind of devastation you cause in your wake, or that kind of thing. Is it that? Because that's not helpful. Like, if the whole idea of me is to try and sort out my head and become a better person, is to become a better person. It's not to become a better person to the detriment of other people or destroy other people's lives, or like if I spend 3 years talking about things and then I have to spend the next 5 years apologizing to people for talking about them, that's kind of no point to that either. So I don't know, and it's a thing I'm kind of wrestling with, because at the same time I don't want to not talk to about my life and about things that happen and affect me, and try to process them and go through them and all that kind of thing. But at the same time, there has to be some sort of element of where I shouldn't talk about some things, or not that I shouldn't, that it would be unfair to other people. So I don't know. It's the kind of the thing that I'm wrestling with currently on what is when is it my story to tell? And is the fact that I'm involved in it reason enough or justifiable enough for me to feel that it's my story? Where is the boundaries of this? Where if there was a car crash and it particularly affected me, hold on a second. So I'm back. There was someone very aggressively rapping my door, even though I was trying to ignore it. Interrupting me while I talk about my things. Turns out I can't even have a podcast without people making it all about them. She was actually delivering something for Vanessa, so she's just doing her job, man. So anyway, yeah, the long and short of what I want to talk about is, when is it your story to tell? So now that I've had my say, I'm very open to getting some sort of feedback or thoughts on this issue. Oh yeah, what my point was like, if there was a car accident and it's a horrible accident and someone's kid died in it, and there was a whole incident, I was there, then that's obviously going to affect me in a very huge way. But and say the person didn't want the details to be out. Like, I don't think I should tell the story, but at the same time, it's something that's upset me, and something that I probably should try to process and go through. But is it my story? So that's the question I'm asking you. When is it your story? When it involves other people? Or can it still be your story or not your story to tell? If it, if no one else is involved, could there be any situations where it's not still your story if it doesn't include anyone else? I suppose business transaction, but that's still going to include other people. So that's it. So yeah. So that was the Tommy Kelly podcast, and that, this is the usual. This is the rambly Tommy Kelly podcast. If this is something you're interested in, then last year I was going to say we did, because that's what people do, don't they? We did, as if some sort of company or something. Last year we produced 30 or so podcasts, which was basically me in a room recording myself. But they're all there on the website, which you can check out at adventuresinwoowoo.com. And on that site, you can also find out about the 40 Servants, which is a magical divination system that I came up with that has become quite popular with all the cool kids. So if you want to be a cool kid, you can check that out by going to, again, adventuresinwoowoo.com/40 Servants or the 40 Servants. Just probably go to adventuresinwoowoo.com and click on the thing that says the 40 Servants. It's just going to be easiest for you. There's also the 4 Devils stuff there, which is kind of a mini system of just 4 servitors for magical use. No divination with that. I have a Patreon if you would like to help me out, or even check out the thing I was talking about, the journey earlier on. Then go to tommykelly.com, which is TOMMIE. Kelly, which is Kelly, Kelly. and that'll bring you straight to the Patreon, and you can check out all the different rewards and stuff like that. There's a number of them there. It's not just this journey thing. That's just a small part. While big, it's just a small part of what the whole Patreon is about. I have an Instagram, I have a Facebook, I have a Twitter, I have a 500px for my photography, I have Flickr for my photography, I have all the things, I'm in all the places, so check me out, and if you can like, share, tell people about it, about the podcast, about the website, all that kind of thing, that is much appreciated, and does really help me out, to be fair. So, good people of the internet, welcome to 2018, and may it be a fucking rocking year for you. May it be your best, may it be your best year yet. May your best times be yet still ahead for you, and yeah, have an awesome week.